There's a recurring gag in Peanuts comics where Charlie Brown attempts to kick a football held by Lucy, only to have it pulled away at the last second so that he trips and falls. The tension of the joke works amazingly, because we know that despite anything he says, despite how much it seems like he's wizened up, Charlie Brown will always try to kick the football, and Lucy will always take it away and make him fall. Look at this comic. Charlie Brown is comforting Lucy, who's tricked him like this like a million times, and he says to her, "We'll do it some other time." Even he knows he's always going to fall for it. He's resigned to that. Shortly after the Democrats took back the House in the midterm elections earlier this month, Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi said that she would seek bipartisanship with the GOP. She said, "I think we've all had enough of division." But have we had enough of division, Nancy? Seems like a lot of people are actually pretty okay with division. Seems like a lot of people are pretty okay with ICE rounding up immigrants and putting them in concentration camps. Seems like there's a rise in far-right nationalism, meaning people want stronger borders, stronger national identities, and to build giant stupid walls. Nancy, you can't get much more divisive than a big fuck-off wall. But again and again and again, we are told to be patient. We are told to temper our expectations. We are told to treat our enemies with dignity and respect, to be civil with them, even if they refuse to be civil with us. I mean, you can't just go around yelling at people in restaurants. I mean, you can have a little protest if you want, as long as you fill out the right paperwork, but there's just a way things are done. Look, I get it, you're angry, but if you do it wrong, you're just gonna give the right more ammo. You gotta be smart. You gotta think in the long term. Because the only way to really stop them is to give them whatever they want, and then hope that later they'll be thankful for that and give you something nice. Just look at the crocodile tears that got cried when some people, sorry, not people, terrorists, knocked on Tucker Carlson's door. These leftist sickos assaulted a perfectly innocent door just because the guy that owned that door happened to use his national platform to spout xenophobic rhetoric that was leading to a return of far-right populism. Look, we all get mad about politics sometimes, but we can't let the little things get in the way of what unites us. I mean, sure, there was the largest anti-Semitic mass shooting in American history. And sure, maybe Tucker Carlson has a little bit of responsibility for that because of all the anti-Semitic conspiracy theories he was pushing on his show. But don't let that get in the way of our common values. An abiding love and respect for doors. Look, sweetie, there's lots of ways you can express yourself politically without having to resort to such desperate measures as telling powerful people what you think of them. The line has to be drawn somewhere. Some people just have to be treated with dignity and respect no matter what they do, for some reason. Whatever happened to
civility?
Here's the thing. Being polite, being civil, those are good things most of the time. But it's actually not good to be polite with people that want to hurt other people. Bigots, or austerity types, or anti-abortion wingnuts, or anti-environmentalists, or fascists, or anti-feminists, or people that prefer smooth peanut butter to crunchy. All of these people want to hurt others. They do not belong in polite society. If you are polite and welcoming to assholes, the message that assholes get is that you're not willing to stop them if that means creating conflict. And that emboldens them. That teaches them that there's room in the discourse for their ideas. Not to mention, it also says to the people that they're targeting that their safety is negotiable. Something that you're willing to debate, but not willing to lose friends over. Sure, you support them, in theory, but you're not going to support them too loudly, not if it makes other people upset. And I know that conventional wisdom is that if you're polite and caring enough to hateful people, that eventually they'll come around and see the error of their ways. I mean, after all, you catch more flies with honey than with vinegar, right? No, that expression is dumb. Have you ever gotten fruit flies? You know how you get rid of fruit flies? You put out vinegar. Flies love vinegar. I don't know how they feel about honey, but they are horny for vinegar. That's not really relevant to my point. It's a bad metaphor. What was I talking about again? Oh, right. You're not going to convince assholes to stop being assholes by cultivating an atmosphere where assholism is frowned upon, but ultimately permissible. I mean, don't get it twisted. You're probably not going to convince them to be cool by insulting them and being dicks to them, but you might get them to shut up. You might get them to go away. You might demonstrate to the people that they intend to be assholes to that you have their back and make your community a little bit safer. And yeah, the assholes are going to piss and moan about it.
So much for the tolerant left.
But they don't care about civility. Not really. You can't believe the things they do and care about civility. They just know that you care about it, and they'll use it against you. I mean, you can't have ideas like race realism or white nationalism or anti-feminism or and give a fuck about civility because those ideas are fundamentally impolite. The type of people who believe that type of horseshit also think that civility is a weakness. Politeness is a luxury for those that lack the clarity of vision that they possess. Those who don't have the conviction to be as merciless and strong as they are. And I'm not saying that if you're polite, you will lose. Because you can be polite and win an argument with these ding-dongs. I mean, it's not hard. They believe a lot of dumb bullshit. But even if you win, you still play the game by their rules. You still conceded that whatever knuckleheaded garbage they brought to you was worth engaging with. And for a lot of really dangerous ideas, that alone is a victory. Most reasonable people wouldn't consider an idea like vaccine denialism to be much better than an idea like eating diapers. But if you wanted to settle this in the marketplace of ideas, you might have an expert in vaccines and some charming ideologue who's an anti-vaxxer, and then they would trade barbs back and forth, and you would charge tickets, and you get people to watch, and may the best idea win. And guess what would happen? Some people, some of whom might not have even seen the debate, will walk away thinking that these two ideas are more or less on the same level. I mean, you've got one smart person saying one thing, and another smart person saying another thing. Looks like the jury's still out. And now, the thing that used to be a fringe position is just something people are still debating and discussing. And that's how bad ideas get normalized. So then, how come Nancy Pelosi is so willing to engage in good faith with all of these dipshits and dumbos? It would be tempting to just say, oh, she's naive. She doesn't see how the game is played. She doesn't know how the world works, like some idiot on YouTube, do. But I don't think Nancy Pelosi is dumb. I mean, I'm dumb, and even I can see that what she's doing won't work. I think Nancy Pelosi has done some calculations in her head. She knows that this appeal to bipartisanship will cede ground to the right, and she knows that every bit of ground ceded to the right means that more people get hurt. But I think she believes that if she does this very politely and very even-handedly, it's going to make her look good. It's going to win her some political capital, and that is the only thing that politicians on either side give even the slightest of a shit about. Hey, remember earlier when I talked about Charlie Brown and Lucy? You probably thought that the point of that story was that the right is Lucy and Nancy Pelosi is Charlie Brown, and the right is just tricking Nancy Pelosi over and over, but it wasn't. See, in this analogy, we're Charlie Brown, and Nancy Pelosi and the centrist establishment she represents, they're Lucy. And I guess the football is politics. It's an analogy. Don't think too deep about it. Sometimes the leaders of the center left don't care about you. I know that might be a bitter pill to swallow. I know that maybe you've invested a lot into thinking that they do, but they don't. I mean, they don't want to burn you for fuel like conservatives do, but they don't give a shit whether you live or die. You're a number to them. You're a checkbox. You're a statistic. Any move they make towards your interests, they do because an enormous number crunching apparatus has convinced them that doing so will allow them to seize or maintain power. Your well-being is a means to an end for them, a bargaining chip. We are taught to view things through the lens of left and right. This is my left, it's your right. I don't really think the major political parties in America or Canada or most liberal democracies actually correspond to that axis, but that's how we're supposed to look at it, according to the media and all the textbooks and everything. There's another lens that I would like you to consider for a moment, the lens of who has power and who does not. When you view things through that lens, the centrist obsession with reaching across the aisle kind of makes a bit more sense. They don't want people to be able to question authority. They don't want people to be a threat to authority because half of the time they wield that authority. If they're going to stay in control, that means they have to set limits on what is and is not acceptable political action. It is acceptable if it benefits the political class in its entirety, regardless of what ideology they claim to represent. It is not acceptable if regular people get power from it and politicians don't. Right now, our planet is on fire. I mean, parts of it are literally on fire. We have about 10 to 12 years to make a dent in climate change, and if we don't, our planet, and by extension, our species, are doomed. Also, you might notice that far-right populism has made incredible strides in the past few years, threatening to repeat some of the worst tragedies of the 20th century. And those are just new problems. We have a bunch of old problems as well. Mass incarceration, colonial genocide, the war on drugs, patriarchy, to name just a few. These are problems that our elected officials have had generations to solve. They like to pretend that it's our fault, that we lack the political will to see change happen. But if there's one thing leftists and liberals tend to agree on, it's that things need to change. They need to change fast, because the path we're on is not sustainable. But the liberal establishment doesn't just not want to see progress, they want to reverse progress that we've already made in the name of bipartisanship. Just compromise more and give more away, and then eventually, at some point, it'll pay off and we'll start winning. I mean, that's just how the system is. You can't just get what you want. You gotta do a bunch of shit you don't want to do. And then maybe, 100 years from now, things will be better. They'll do anything to compromise with the right, but they won't move an inch for us. Just look how angry they get at moderate social democrats like Bernie Sanders or Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. They've got these outlandish positions. Like, for example, maybe we shouldn't let poor people die for no reason. Or maybe it would be better if people were more or less equal. Or maybe we should do something about the paramilitary that's currently rounding up immigrants and putting them in concentration camps. I mean, come on, grow up, all right? Just grow up, because you're not looking how the modern world works, okay? Because society doesn't make sense without ice. Our whole modern infrastructure is based around having ice. It's been around for 15 years. Hey, though, a bunch of conservatives are talking about dismantling the EPA. Now, I think maybe we should let them do that, because if we do, maybe they'll cooperate in the Mueller investigation, and we can finally get Trump impeached. The planet is dying. At first, it seems like they're just morons, but it actually makes sense when you consider that they have more to lose from the left than they do from the right. They have more common goals with the right than the left. When leftists win or even just show up, we undermine the pretenses that they need to maintain to stay in power. They need to scare you into thinking that they're the only option. That if you try to do anything else, it just won't work and you'll only make things worse. You just have to trust them. Hey, here's a question. How come so many politicians on the left are rich? How come so many of them come from political dynasties? I mean, of course these people don't want to see wealth redistribution. Of course they believe in the free market. Of course they don't care about imperialist wars. Those things benefit them. Maybe not all of them, but a lot of them. So when we, on the left, kind of just roll our eyes and ask ourselves, how can these liberals be so naive? We're kind of letting them off the hook. We're giving them the benefit of the doubt and assuming that they want to serve our interests, but they just don't know how. I mean, they're just so gosh darn innocent, aren't they? In their little suits and their little ties. Some of them are handsome and they wear cool socks. And oops, we accidentally erased legal protections for trans people. Oh gosh. Oh ding dang. Well, what are you gonna do? Nobody's perfect. Vote for us again in 4 years, please. So they tell us to be civil, to know where the line is. To act within the boundaries of what they have decided for us constitutes acceptable political action. I mean, we can fight, sure, but you've got to fight the right way. We have to just accept their solutions. I mean, they're the experts. They know what they're doing, and that's just the way the system works. Well, here's an idea. If the things we want are unrealistic because that's just the way the system works, then the system needs to be dismantled and replaced with a system that works for us instead of them. The first step is to be angry and organize and stop being civil. We need to see what happens when people stop being polite and start getting real. Hey everybody, people are always asking me, hey Thought Slime, hey, how you doing? How am I going to give you all of my money? I want you to have all of my money and I don't want to have any of it because I don't deserve it like you do. Well, there's only one way to give me all of your money. That's patreon.com/thoughtslime. Once again, it's patreon.com/thoughtslime. Did you know that if you pledge to me on Patreon, you are guaranteed to be protected from vampires? No vampires can attack you, and if you get attacked by a vampire, that's a money-back guarantee at patreon.com/thoughtslime. Hey, why don't you like and subscribe already? I mean, come on. I liked and subscribed all of your videos, so it's only fair that you do it to me. Uh-oh, I do some live streams now, so if you want to be notified when I'm going live, click this stupid bell thing by the subscribe button. I hope you enjoyed my video. I hope that real world joke at the end wasn't too stupid, because I felt very embarrassed doing it. More embarrassed than I normally feel.